Hello and welcome to the first episode of MACABRE, the podcast that recounts the most terrifying and bizarre stories and experiences. In this episode I will be talking about my own horrifying experience of walking home alone in the early hours of night. So at the time I was working in a music venue, which was actually quite an amazing building. It was like this old church, and it had been converted into an arts venue. And what was really great about it is that everything, like architecturally and even like the interior design, from stained glass windows to like an altar, pulpit, etc., they were still intact. It almost seemed quite I've forgotten the word, sacramental to just to be used in such a way. It was quite almost blasphemous, but I'm not really a religious person, but I could see how offence could be caused. But it was all deconsecrated. I'm really not good with words today. But it was all deconsecrated land, or however you say it. But I remember it quite well. It was probably 2 days before we stopped working for Christmas, for our Christmas break. After we'd finished working on this show, I think it was like some kind of comedy night. There was kind of a few of us that stayed around and had a few drinks and just kind of celebrated Christmas, I guess, in our own way, which was quite amazing, really. But anyway, it came to like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock. Everybody got in their respective taxis, and a lot of people asked me to jump in with them, but they all lived on the other side of town, and unfortunately in those days I didn't really have much money. I wasn't earning enough, and any money that I did earn was probably spent on Christmas presents. So I was stranded, basically, so the only option I had was to walk home. I had walked home maybe a little earlier than that before from work, but the thing is about where I lived at the time, it had this policy of turning street lights off in the name of conserving energy. The funny thing is about it that all the council people and all the local politicians said that crime statistics had dropped dramatically since it. That was absolute bollocks. It was more dangerous than it'd ever been, and I think the way that I walked was kind of down this really dark lane. It was actually quite a respectable part of the town I was living in. There was lots of really nice houses, a lot of it was kind of a low crime area, which made what happened kind of even more shocking. But every area has very bizarre and strange people. But anyway, I decided to walk home, and quite frankly I was shitting myself because it was just dark and there was no one around. I mean, this was like a Wednesday night, so no one was around at the town centre, wasn't busy, and I just felt like incredibly isolated. And I think it's quite well known that when you're isolated, your mind kind of goes into overdrive, and you think about things a lot more. Your perception of fear is kind of just magnified in that kind of situation. But when I was walking, I'd got to this kind of it was like a valley, but it was a road, but it was really small. It just went down and then quite instantly went up again. It was like a massive hill / whatever. And in this valley, there's an old church with an old graveyard. It's quite beautiful in the day, and I think I'd got just past the church when someone just went, "Hello!" like that. And it was this, I think it was this guy just came stumbling up to me. He was walking home as well. We were both kind of drunk, so we were just talking shit. I didn't know the guy, but he had been at a concert at a different venue and was talking about it, and we both liked the band that he went to see, and he was really, he was quite cool. But we were walking up this hill, and all of a sudden we heard like sound of a woman singing. More interestingly, the song that she was singing was actually "In Dreams" by Roy Orbison. I don't know if any of you have heard that before, but it's one of those songs that just haunts you, especially when it gets to a bit where he just hits a high note that goes straight through you. It's very haunting, and we didn't initially get freaked out. We thought it was quite funny. We just thought it was another drunk person. I don't know what I was initially feeling at the time, because I feel like I can't really remember. But then I turned around, and this figure of this woman had kind of like appeared out of nowhere. And the only answer to that is that she probably just came out of the churchyard. And just we stopped and looked, and I mean, the natural reaction of people in that time is kind of like a fight or flight situation. But this was a woman, and she was clearly quite elderly, because the way that she started to walk towards us was quite slow, and she was carrying, I remember, lots of shopping bags, wearing this sorry, just lighting my cigarette. She was wearing this kind of like black puffer jacket, and was just dressed all in black with her hood up, and she was holding these bags, and these bags were like from grocery stores, and like whatever harm came from an old woman walking towards you with fucking grocery bags. The worst you'd get is a sausage roll. But yeah, it was absolutely petrifying, because she just kept singing. She didn't stop singing. And I remember the guy just being like, "Fuck it, what's going on?" Like, so he started to walk, but I stayed, and I caught up with him, and then like this woman kind of like sped up, like her pace was just increased like tenfold, and it was like like nothing I'd ever seen before, because we were a good like maybe 50 meters ahead of her, and that slowly went down to like 40 to 30 to 20 meters, even though we were continuing to walk. I remember like just seeing this guy start to run. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? Run!" And I didn't know, but she had started to run, and she was saying like, "Come here, you little bastards! Don't you dare piss on my husband's grave!" And it was, I don't know, like I kind of just thought like this woman was mentally ill. But anyway, like he got to the top of the road, and he stood off to go to his house, which was obviously down another road, but I had to keep going. And I'd thought I'd lost her, but then I stopped and I rolled a cigarette, and I thought, fucking hell. All the time I was texting my girlfriend and saying like, "Oh, someone's just followed us, like chased us. I'm shitting myself, can you come pick me up?" And I didn't get any replies, it was fucking useless, and I was just like, "Oh, well, thanks." So I started to walk again, and was almost like running, but walking, but not running, like walking really fast. And then like I turned the corner, and this woman must have cut across the field, which is kind of like a shortcut, but I wouldn't go across a dark field, and especially in that area, because there'd been people like mugged and things like that. And she was standing at the end of the road, and it was the only way I could get home. So she was like standing, like singing again, like singing Roy Orbison in Dreams, like it was just a record that was on repeat. So I thought I'd had enough. I just wanted to go home, and I walked like towards her quite fast. I was like, "Listen, ma'am, you better fuck off before, you know, if I feel a threat from you, I'm not sure what I'll do. I'm not a particularly like frightening person. I'm not a fighter. I'm not really anything like that. But I was prepared to do like to defend myself if I was going to get attacked by her. And she she said to me, she was like, I saw what you were doing in the cemetery and I wasn't very happy about it, and I know that you urinated on my husband's grave. And I was like, no, I didn't. I've been at work. Are you fucking insane? And even if I wasn't at work, do you think I would do that? And she was like, I saw you doing it. I saw what you and your friends were doing. And I was like, that didn't happen. I was like, right, I'm going to go. Please stop following me, otherwise I'll either call the police, or if you come any closer to me, we will have problems. Now, as I said, I'm not a fighter. I don't know what I would really have done, had it got that bad. But anyway, I walked, and I was only about probably 10 minutes away from home. It wasn't a big deal. But I noticed in the background, like, she'd followed me. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, leave me alone. Just leave me the fuck alone. I didn't do what you said I did. That's it, You're obviously, like, insane. And I was, like, half tempted to call, like, NHS Direct and get, like, sectioned or something. But I didn't, because it was just... It was just one of these things I just felt sorry for. I took everything that she said with a pinch of salt and just kind of moved away, but there was a threatening like aura about her and I didn't really know how to respond to it. So anyway, like I managed to get home and shut the door and locked it and checked that I locked it like several times. And I'm not one of these people that can go to sleep straight away. Even though I was tired, I had to do something, like maybe read something, watch a podcast, listen to a podcast or watch a video or something like that. And at the time I was listening to a podcast about someone's like scary experience of walking home. And I thought, fucking hell, I thought the irony of this is just unbelievable. And all of a sudden, like I looked out my blinds and she was just stood there in front of my house. My initial response was one of like grab something and go out there and just tell her to fuck off. But then I thought better of it, so I just thought I'd just call the police. So I called the police. The police turned up. And she was still standing there. She didn't try and run away, and they just basically told her to move on, and she did. But then I spoke to the police. But I was like, "Do you know who she is? Have you had any instances before?" And they said all the time. They said like she only comes out at night. She's like a fucking a fox. She's like nocturnal, and they've been to her home several times, and she's this massive hoarder. And I tried to ask them, like why. She kept saying that I pissed on her husband's grave and stuff. And then they told me that like the last person to get buried in that churchyard was in like 1902, or something like that. I can't remember the exact date. And I just thought like, what the fuck? Like what the fuck is going on? I wasn't so much scared of her anymore, but was concerned. But the police later told me they'd been to her house, like I said, and she was just this massive hoarder. She'd had massive like psychological issues over the years. The ironic thing is that she had never been married. She had children, and they cared for her like the best that they could, but she kind of refused any kind of help. And on a legal standpoint, from a legal point of view, there's not really much you can do. It never happened again, so it wasn't a persistent thing. And I did walk home again, reluctantly. I did walk the same route again. But nevertheless, it wasn't a fun experience. I don't think I'll ever forget it, but nevertheless, fuck it. But one thing to come of it, it did make me aware of like how people with like mental illness really perceive things to be fact, even though everybody knows that it isn't. Everybody knows that it's not true. I just found it quite. It was macabre, It was very macabre, and yeah. But like I said, the most haunting thing about it was her singing Roy Orbison, But yeah, that's my probably scariest experience of walking home at night. Thanks for listening. I will probably be uploading another podcast within the next couple of days. I'm going to be quite a frequent uploader. I'm trying to get my YouTube channel to be like, consistent, and try to reach out to a wider audience. And also, one thing that I would like is if you have your own scary experiences, you can email me or mail me via YouTube or leave a comment regarding your experiences, and you could be featured on this podcast. That would be great. And remember to like and subscribe for more great content. Thanks, guys.